This is a continued read-along of a family treasury of little golden books. In this episode, we will be reading The Taxi That Hurried and Scuffy the Tugboat. If you enjoyed this read-along, make sure to give a like, comment, and subscribe for more bookish vids and other videos I make here on the channel. For now, without further ado, let's begin reading The Taxi That Hurried and Scuffy the Tugboat. The Taxi That Hurried by Lucy Spring Mitchell, Irma Simonton Black, and Jesse Stanton. Illustrated by Tabor Gurgley. Once there was a taxi. It was a bright yellow with 2 red lines running around its body. Inside, it had a soft leather seat and 2 hard little let-down seats. It was a small smart little taxi, for it could start fast, jerk whiz. It could tear along the street, whiz squeak. It could stop fast, squeak jerk. Its driver name was Bill. Together, they were a speedy pair. One day, the taxi was standing on the street close to the sidewalk. Bill and the little taxi didn't like to stand still long. I wonder who will be our next passengers, thought Bill. Just then, Bill heard someone's feet running on the sidewalk. Thump, thump, thump. And he heard some smaller feet pattering along, too. Thumpity, thumpity, thumpity. He leaned out and saw Tom with a little suitcase and Tom's mother with a big suitcase, and both of them were breathing hard. "Whoa!" gasped Tom's mother. "Taxi driver man, please drive us to the station as fast as you can. We're very late and the train won't wait. Woo, woo, woo." Tom and his mother stumbled into the taxi and slammed the door. "Sure, lady," answered Bill. "We're a speedy pair. We can get you there." Away went the taxi. It liked to tear along in a hurry, purring softly. It rushed down the street like a yellow streak with 2 red lines blurred into one around its middle. It wiggled through the traffic. Tom and his mother bounced and jounced on the leather seats. Tom's mother sat on the wide, soft one behind, but Tom sat on the hard little one so that he could look out the window. Then suddenly, squeak, jerk! The taxi stopped short. It stood stock still in the middle of the street. Ahead shone a bright red light. Underneath the light stood a big traffic policeman holding up his right hand. Tom's mother called through the window. "Taxi driver man, must you stop when the lights are red? We simply have to get ahead. We're terribly late, and the train won't wait." And Bill answered, "Surely, lady, you have seen how cars must wait until the lights are green. But we're a speedy pair. We'll surely get you there." Then suddenly, jerk whiz, they were off again down the crowded street, for the light had changed to green again. Away went the taxi down the street faster than ever. Now it had to turn and twist, for the street was full of traffic, trucks and wagons and other taxis. The little taxi hurried past them all like a yellow streak, and people could hardly see Tom's little face looking out of the window as he bounced and jounced by. "My," said the people on the sidewalk, "that's a speedy taxi. I wonder why it's in such a hurry. Luckily, it's got a good driver." The taxi wiggled around the big bus. It jiggled across the trolley track. Then suddenly, squeak, jerk! The little taxi stopped short again. It stood stock still behind a big coal truck that was backing up the sidewalk, for the driver was trying hard to get his truck just the right way for the black coal to go jumping and clattering down its slide into a hole in the sidewalk. Tom stood up so that he could see the big coal truck better. He could see the handle on the side. He wished he could watch the driver turn up that handle and make the big truck tip up in front. He almost wished they weren't in a hurry. Tom's mother called through the open window. "Taxi driver man, first is a cop that makes you stop, and now we're stuck behind a truck. We're awfully late, and the train won't wait." So Bill called to the truck driver. "Please, will you try to let me get by?" And the truck driver grinned and stopped his truck. Carefully and slowly, Bill squeezed by the big old truck close to the sidewalk. Bill called over his shoulder, "We're a speedy pair. We'll get you there." Now the taxi went so fast that people skipped up and onto the sidewalk as it went by, and everyone thought, "That's the speediest taxi I ever saw." Then suddenly, squeak, jerk! The taxi stopped short, and Tom almost fell through the front window. Tom's mother bounced so hard on the white leather seat that her head whacked the ceiling of the taxi. Her hat slid down over one ear. Her big suitcase fell over with a bang on the floor, and Tom's little suitcase hopped off the street. Tom's mother pulled her hat on straight again. Then she looked at her watch. Then she looked out of the window, and all the taxis and buses at the and trucks. Once more, she called to Bill on the front seat. "Taxi driver man, first it's a cop that makes you stop, then you get stuck behind a truck. Now the traffic is in our way. We're likely to sit here the rest of the day. We're horribly late, and the train won't wait." So Bill began to blow his horn. "Honk, honk," screamed the little taxi. "Honk, honk, honk. We want to go. You make it slow. We're a speedy pair. We want to get there. Honk, honk. Honk, honk." The nearer they came to the station, the more taxis and buses and trucks there were on the street. Suddenly they stopped, and Bill blew the horn again. "Honk, honk, honk." Down the street, up above the station, they could see the big station clock. In 5 minutes, the train would go. They really were very terribly, awfully, horribly late, and they knew the train just wouldn't wait. Then suddenly, jerk, jerk, the traffic began to move. First a taxi, then a bus, then a truck, then more taxis, more buses, more trucks, till the whole line was moving. The speedy little taxi wiggled through the traffic. It dodged around a bus, and it twisted around a truck, and it whizzed past the taxi. Tom's mother kept closer look at the big station clock. It said 4 minutes before the train went, then 3 minutes, then 2 minutes, and the little taxi drove up to the station. Tom jumped out of the taxi while his mother gave Bill the money. She grabbed her big suitcase. Tom grabbed his little suitcase. And off they ran. Thump, 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 thumpity, thumpity, thumpity. Bill looked after them and grinned at his yellow taxi. "Sure," he said, "we're a speedy pair. We got them there." And it was true. The conductor was just ready to signal the engineer to start. But he saw Tom and his mother come running down the platform, and he waited for them. He took the big suitcase from Tom's mother, held the door open for her, and handed her the big suitcase. Tom stepped on the train after her, panting from his run and holding his little suitcase. "All aboard!" called the conductor, waving his hand to the engineer. And the conductor swung onto the train, and just as it began to move, "You're a fast runner," he said to Tom. And to Tom's mother he said, "Lady, you just made it." Tom was still breathing hard, but he managed to gasp out, "We made it because we had such a speedy taxi. And speedy driver. You should have seen that taxi hurry." The end. Our next story is Scuffy the Tugboat and His Adventures Down the River by Gertrude Crampton. Illustrated by Tabor Gurgley. Scuffy was sad. Scuffy was cross. Scuffy sniffed his blue smokestack. "A toy store is no place for a red-painted tugboat," said Scuffy, and he sniffed his blue smokestack again. "I was meant for bigger things." "Perhaps you would not be cross if you went sailing," said the man with the polka dot tie who owned the shop. So one night he took Scuffy home to his little boy. He filled the bathtub with water. "Sail, little tugboat," said the little boy. "I won't sail in a bathtub," said Scuffy. "A tub is no place for a red-painted tugboat. I was meant for bigger things." The next day, the man with the polka dot tie and his little boy to carry Scuffy to a laughing brook that started high in the hills. "Sail, little tugboat," said the man with the polka dot tie. It was spring, and the brook was full to the brim with water, and the water moved in a hurry. as all things move in a hurry when it is spring. Scuffy was in a hurry, too. "Come back, little tugboat, come back!" cried the little boy as the hurrying brimful brook carried Scuffy downstream. "Not I," tooted Scuffy. "Not I. This is the life for me." All that day, Scuffy sailed along with the brook, past the meadows filled with cowslips, past the women washing clothes on the bank, past the little woods filled with violets. Cows came to the brook to drink. They stood in the cool water, and it was fun to sail around between their legs and bumped softly into their noses. It was fun to see them drink. But when a white and brown cow almost drank Scuffy instead of the brook's cold water, Scuffy was frightened. That was not fun. Night came, and with it the moon. There was nothing to see but the quiet trees. Suddenly an owl called out, "Hoot, hoot! Toot, toot!" cried the frightened tugboat, and he wished he could see the smiling, friendly face of the man with the polka dot tie. When morning came, Scuffy was crossed instead of frightened. "I was meant for bigger things, but which way am I to go?" he said. But there was only one way to go, and that was with the running water where the two brooks met to form a small river. And with the river sailed Scuffy, the red-painted tugboat. He was proud when he sailed past villages. "People build villages at the end of my river," said Scuffy, and he straightened his blue smokestack. Once Scuffy's river joined a small one, jammed with logs. Here were men in heavy jackets and great boots, walking along on the floating logs, trying to pry them free. "Dirt, dirt, let me through," demanded Scuffy. But the men paid no attention to him. They pushed the logs apart so they would drift in with the water front to the sail mill in the town. Scuffy bumped along the jostling logs. "Ouch!" he cried as two logs bumped together. "This is a fine river," said Scuffy, "but it is busy, and very big for me." He was proud when he sailed under the bridges. A river is so wide and so deep that people must build bridges to cross it. The river moved through big towns now instead of little villages, and the bridges over it were very wide enough so that many cars and trucks and streetcars could cross all at once. The river got deeper and deeper. Scuffy did not have to tuck up his bottom. The river moved faster and faster. "I feel like a train instead of a tugboat," said Scuffy as he was hurrying along. He was proud when he passed the old sawmill with its water wheel. But high in the hills and mountains, the winter snow melted. Water filled the brooks and rushed from there into the small river. Faster and faster it flowed in the great river where Scuffy sailed. "There is too much water in this river," said Scuffy as he pitched and tossed on the waves. "Soon it will splash over the top, and what a flood there will be." Soon great armies of men came to save the fields of town from the rushing water. They filled the bags with sand and put them at the edge of the river. "They're making higher banks for the river," shouted Scuffy, "to hold the water back." The water rose higher and higher. The men built the sandbags higher and higher. Higher went the river. Higher went the sandbags. At last the water rose no more. The floodwater rushed onto the sea, and Scuffy raced along with the flood. The people and the fields and the towns were safe. On went the river to the sea. At last, Scuffy sailed into a big city. Here, the river widened, and along were docks and wharves. Oh, it was a busy place and a noisy place. The cranes groaned as they swung the cargoes into great ships. The porters shouted as they carried suitcases and boxes on board. Horses stamped and trucks' motors roared. Streetcars clanged and people shouted. Scuffy said, "Toot, toot!" but nobody noticed. "Oh, oh!" cried Scuffy when he saw the sea. "There is no beginning and no end to the sea. I wish I could find the man with the polka dot tie and his little boy." Just as the little red-painted tugboat sailed past the last piece of land, a hand reached out and picked them up, and there was the man with the polka dot tie with his little boy beside him. Scuffy is home now with the man with the polka dot tie and his little boy. He sails from one end of the bathtub to the other. This is the place for a red-painted tugboat, says Scuffy, and this is the life for me. The end. Thanks for watching.